So I'm picking up here after Calypso offers Odysseus immortality to stay, and Odysseus basically says he has to go home. He's suffered so much, he can suffer a little more. These three dots are indicating a little skip in time, and that's just sections where Odysseus is building his ship and preparing to leave the island. So it says, the wind lifting his spirits high, royal Odysseus set sail, gripping the tiller, seated astern, and now the master mariner steered his craft, sleep never closing his eyes, forever scanning the stars, the Pleiades and the plowman late to set, and the great bear that mankind also calls the wagon. She wheels on her axis always fixed, watching the hunter. And she alone is denied a plunge in the ocean's baths. Hers were the stars the lustrous goddess told him to keep hard to port as he cut across the sea. And 17 days he sailed, making headway well. On the 18th, shadowy mountains slowly loomed, the Phaeacians' island reaching toward him now, over the misty breakers, rising like a shield. But now Poseidon, god of the earthquake, saw him, just returning home from his Ethiopian friends, from miles away on the Salmi mountain range. He spied Odysseus sailing down the sea, and it made his fury boil even more. He shook his head and rumbled to himself, outrageous! Look how the gods have changed their minds about Odysseus, while I was off with my Ethiopians. Just look at him there, nearing Phaeacia's shores, where he's fated to escape his noose of pain that's held him until now. Still, my hopes ride high. I'll give that man his swamping fill of trouble. With that, he rammed the clouds together, both hands clutching his trident, churned the waves into chaos, whipping all the gales from every quarter, shrouding over in thunderheads the earth and sea at once, and night swept down from the sky. East and south winds clashed, and the raging west and north sprung from the heavens, roiled heavy, heaving breakers up. And Odysseus's knees quaked, his spirit too. Numb with fear, he spoke to his own great heart. Wretched man, what becomes of me now at last? I fear the nymph foretold it all too well. On the high seas, she said, before I can reach my native land, I'll fill my cup of pain. And now look, it all comes to pass. What monstrous clouds! King Zeus crowning the whole wide heaven black, churning the sea in chaos, gales blasting, raging around my head from every quarter. My death plunge in a flash. It's certain now. Poseidon, god of the earthquake, launched a colossal wave, terrible, murderous, arching over him, pounding down on him, hard as a windstorm blasting piles of dry, parched chaff, scattering flying husks, so the long planks of his boat were scattered far and wide. But Odysseus leapt aboard one timber, and riding it like a plunging racehorse, stripped away his clothes, divine Calypso's gift, and quickly tying the scarf around his waist, he dove headlong headfirst into the sea, stretched his arms, and stroked for life itself. But again the mighty god of earthquakes spied him, shook his head, and grumbled deep in his spirit, Go, go. After all, you've suffered, rove your miles of sea, till you fall in the arms of people loved by Zeus. Even so, I can hardly think you'll find your punishments too light. With that threat, he lashed his team with their long flowing manes, gaining Aegae port where his famous palace stands. But Zeus's daughter Athena countered him at once. The rest of the winds she stopped right in their tracks, commanding them all to hush now, go to sleep. But all but the boisterous north, she whipped him up, and the goddess beat the breakers flat before Odysseus, dear to Zeus, so he could reach the Phaeacians, mingle with men who love their long oars, and escape his death at last. Then when dawn with her lovely locks brought on the third day, the wind fell in an instant, all glazed to a dead calm, and Odysseus, scanning sharply, raised high by a groundswell, looked up and saw it, landfall just ahead. Joy, warm as the joy that children feel when they see their father's life dawn again, one who's lain on a sick bed, racked with torment, wasting away slowly under some angry power's onslaught. Then what joy when the gods deliver him from his pains. So warm Odysseus's joy when he saw that shore, those trees, as he swam on, anxious to plant his feet on solid ground again. He set out for the woods, and not far from the water he found a grove with a clearing all around, and crawled beneath two bushy olives sprung from the same root, one olive wild, the other well-bred stock. No sodden gusty winds could ever pierce them, nor could the sun's sharp rays invade their depths, nor could a downpour drench them through and through, so dense they grew together, tangling side by side. Odysseus crept beneath them, scraping up all at once a good wide bed for himself with both hands. A fine litter of dead leaves had drifted in, enough to cover two men over, even three, in the wildest kind of winter known to man. Long enduring Odysseus, overjoyed at the sight, bedded down in the mist and heaped the leaves around him, as a man will bury his glowing brand in black ashes, off on a lonely farmstead, no neighbors near to keep a spark alive. No need to kindle fire from somewhere else. So great Odysseus buried himself in leaves, and Athena showered sleep upon his eyes. Sleep in a swift wave, delivering him from all the pains and labors. Blessed sleep that sealed his eyes at